Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today this evening. This joyous occasion where Deakin University is celebrating its 30 years of engagement is extremely close to my heart. This journey of 30 years of Deakin University has been a journey of partnership, passion, trust, relationship, and a legacy which is unique among all foreign universities in India. With an in India, for India, with India approach, we stand tall and we stand committed to the journey of India. Today, as I stand in front of you, I speak with pride that Deakin University was India's very first university ever to set up a presence in India in the year 1994. I do want to start by acknowledging a few people that have made this journey possible. And I will refer to my Vice Chancellor, who's sitting right in front of me. For the last 5 years, Professor Martin has led this wonderful journey of Deakin University in India with great support, trust, and love for this country. And I think that all of you would agree with me that unless and until you have love for this country, it's very hard to do business with this country. So Ian has been a great support to the Deakin University presence in India. The previous, I've had the pleasure of working with previous almost 4 vice chancellors. I started with Professor John Hay, and then Professor Jeff Wilson, Professor Sally Walker, and Professor Jane Den Hollander. And all of them loved India and had a great sense of pride in Deakin University's presence in India. But the relationship with India is not just a Deakin University relationship in India. It's a relationship with all of you. It's a relationship with our partners. It's a relationship with people. It's a passion that we share about making a difference. And today, as I speak to you, I do want to thank each one of you for the wonderful contributions that you have made over the years and that you have made these 30 years memorable and a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of focus in building a new future. An approach where we are proud of executing with all our eminent partners, organizations in academia, industry, and government. We supported each other in the thick and thin of where we have been in this journey. Deakin has worked in India in the areas of research engagement, in the areas of community development, accessible education, meritorious scholarships for the vice chancellors, student scholarships, bringing an international classroom to India, and also, ladies and gentlemen, a pride moment for us where we are world's first university to establish a branch campus in India, which will be inaugurated later this week in Gift City. The underlying strength of Deakin's engagement in India is commitment. It's a long-standing commitment between Deakin University, colleagues and professors and students of Deakin University in India. I have here with me a wonderful Deakin team. Nick, our Dean for Science and Technology, Jimmy, our Chief Advancement Officer, John Bolton, Executive Director, Campuses, Bhaskaran, Pro Vice Chancellor, Research, and my Deakin South Asia team, and Deanne and Kim, again from Deakin Branch Campuses. This journey would not have been possible by each one of you contributing to where we are today. And I think that what is really important to note, it is not just a job for us, ladies and gentlemen, it is our passion. It is our belief. And it is a journey we are on where we do want to keep the Deakin torch blazing and we do want to keep ourselves ahead of the curve. I wouldn't stop here, I would want to thank the Australian High Commission. Again, I can say I've had a whole lot of a whole lot of high commissioners that I've dealt with. But I think the support that we get from the High Commission, and we've got Catherine here, Minister Councillor for Austrade. Also, we have other colleagues from the Trade Commission and the High Commission. This journey without your support would not have been possible where we are. So it's an extreme thank you from all of us to all of you for all that you have made possible. Deakin University, in its strategy for 2035, talks about an India economic strategy of 2035, talks about Deakin's very strong position in India, and it also talks about the 30 years of engagement and our case studies, which talk about the Terry Deakin Nanobio Center, the NSDC program, and a whole lot of other things. So I'm going to stop here before I invite the Vice Chancellor. We're going to play a very short film that we've tried to put together in a very short period of time, but bear with us. It'll give you some peep into our journey.
For 30 years, Deakin University has been on an incredible journey of transformation and innovation, crafting a legacy of impact. The journey began in 1994 with Deakin University becoming the first international university to establish its presence in India. With an In India, with India, for India approach, we set out to redefine the landscape of engagement across the Australia-India education corridor. Deakin University has invested over 50 million Australian dollars in India, contributing to scholarships, research, and community projects. Our research has transcended borders, partnering with prestigious institutes in India to push the boundaries of science, technology, and social change. The Vice Chancellor's meritorious 100% scholarships initiative for Indian students was more than just financial aid. It was a transformative moment for numerous students and their families, spanning the length and breadth of India, inspiring a new generation of future leaders.
My focus area is in the field of cybercrime education. We deal with issues like video game addiction, children on social media, financial fraud. So I'll be dealing with students, schools, universities, and this 100% scholarship is really going to help me push forward and make a wave of change.
Now let's hear from some of our accomplished alumni individuals whose journeys have been shaped by their time at Deakin.
My experience at Deakin helped shape me into the person I am today. Diverse, creative, globally aware, balanced, innovative, and hardworking.
This commitment takes us significantly forward with the establishment of the world's first ever international university campus in India.
Give me enormous pleasure to acknowledge that Deakin University will be the first overseas university approved to establish a branch campus in India ever. Quite an achievement.
Our initiatives have graced thousands of media publications annually. Today, as we commemorate 30 years of our journey in India, we are not just looking back, we are looking ahead. We envision a future filled with innovation, research breakthroughs, and educational opportunities that will continue to transform lives. Thank you to our incredible Deakin community and our partners in India who have been part of this journey.
So we are looking ahead and we are committing to the next 30 years of a wonderful journey in this wonderful country. I'm going to invite the Vice Chancellor to say a few words and unveil the 30 years logo and raise the toast as well.
Carefully put that down there and try not to kick it. Ravneet, thank you. Ravneet's joy in 30 years celebration of our engagement with the university with India is well justified. I have some notes, but as people I want to know with me, I've sort of left them behind because I want to speak from the heart tonight. Deakin is a young university. We're only 50 years old. In fact, we're not even 50. We're 49. We'll have our 50th birthday in 2025. But for 30 of those 50 years, India has been intimately woven into the very DNA of Deakin. And that's quite a unique thing. I've worked in a number of international universities, and I've never seen a university-to-country relationship and a university-to-partner relationship that is anywhere the same as Deakin's with India. It is quite remarkable. It is built on many, many years of passion and commitment by very many people. But in starting my remarks tonight, there's only been one common theme in those 30 years, and that one common theme is sitting in the front row here. And without Ravneet and Ravneet's passion, enthusiasm, and dedication to both Deakin and this wonderful country, we would not be here today. So I do want to acknowledge Ravneet. Deakin is a remarkable place. As I said, we're only 50 years old. By any measure, we are now in the top 10 of Australian universities. Whether you look at our educational performance, we're probably well within the top 10 there. Our research performance now, it is top 10 at least. To go from a small university starting in a windswept campus in Warn Ponds in Geelong to that in 50 years is remarkable. Sitting at the heart of that has been our education mission and our research mission, and both of those have played out strongly in how we've gone in India over the time. We started with probably a more traditional model of how do we build a presence to recruit students in India to come to Australia to study at Deakin and then return back to India. But I think under Ravneet's and the team's leadership, we very rapidly realised that that was not going to be enough. That was a very transactional, one-dimensional relationship upon which you could not build the things that you really wanted to build. And in the education mission, it's gone from simply recruiting students, and that in itself is not simple, but to building a relationship with key educational partners here, increasing the depth of that relationship so that we now have 4 hub partners who are in partnership with us delivering genuinely shared curricula so students can experience in India a Deakin education and take half of that education to Australia to continue to study in Australia or to continue to study in their own home country. Innovate there. We've taken innovation in the digital space, in the distance learning space. And one of, I think, our proudest achievements is COVID didn't stop us. And in fact, Ravneet and I have talked, we probably did more during COVID actually than we were doing before, because all of a sudden the barriers of, well, you can't possibly start something without a physical visit disappeared. You could start something just having conversations. And a lot of the digital initiatives came from that very, very difficult and challenging time, and they've helped shape and deliver a number of things that we've done there. And then, of course, Gift City. To be not just one of the first, but the first international university to establish a branch campus in India has been a remarkable achievement. But actually, I think what is more remarkable is the speed. So if everybody talks about 2 things, Indian bureaucracy and university bureaucracy, you put the 2 together, you'd imagine it would take a very long time to do anything. That has not been the case. It is remarkable. We made an in-principle decision to do this in December of last year, so little more than a year ago. We received the approval to proceed the first week in March, and at the end of that week, you saw the Prime Minister of Australia announced it. That was close to the wire, and there is a story to be told about how worrying it was, but we got there. We got approval to put the building up in July of this year or June of this year, and we will open and cut the ribbon on a building that is not just a shell, but contains books, computers, teaching spaces, ready to go. That could not have happened without the depth of partnership that we have, and I think it's one example of the testament to what we've been able to achieve. And again, my hat's off to the team at Deakin in Australia, but also Deakin South Asia for the work that they've put in and the passion they brought to that. So the education mission is one part of what we do. But then there's the research and innovation mission. And it's been absolutely hugely pleasing to see the growth and the depth of that. It started with research to researcher relationships. And I think it's particularly good we're starting at the beginning of the 30th years to talk about that in Chennai, because probably much of it did start here. Whether it's our diabetes relationship or the relationship with IITM in new materials, advanced manufacturing, a lot of it started here. And that depth has grown. We've now got very established, mature research relationships. And today, we launched something very significant, the IITM Deakin University Research Academy, that will have 30 shared joint PhD students a year. But that's just the start. That offers the way of bringing together our capabilities, IITM's incredible capabilities and resources to address, solve, work on some of the most important challenges that we have. Clean energy, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. The list goes on and on and on. It is incredible. And I do want to call out and acknowledge our friends and partners at IITM for your dedication and faith in working with us. So thank you. There is so much that I could talk about, but I think the one thing I do want to finish with is Deakin could have done none of this without partners here. And there are partners in this room and there are partners around this state and across India who have worked with us over those 30 years, brought their own passion, dedication, commitment, enthusiasm to a relationship. And they've done the three things in partnership that matter. They've worked with us on achieving shared goals. We've worked together on making sure that we both benefit from those goals, and we've both invested in making sure that it happens. And I think that's characterized all of the successful relationships that we've had over that time. We've been able to continue to build those institution-to-institution relationships, those lab-to-lab relationships, those person-to-person relationships, government-to-government, university-to-industry relationships that have underpinned so much. I have a long list of those I could mention, and I'm not even going to start because I'm frightened that in having a long list, the one name that I miss is the one that's most important in the room that day. But as I say, we are absolutely reliant on those partnerships. Before I get to the official bit of what I'm about to do, I'm just going to say a couple of personal words. I first came to this country as a student in 1986, and I spent 4 months in UP. And I can assure you that UP in 1986 was an eye-opening experience for a very, very green UK medical student. But the one thing I was left with was an enduring love of this country and an understanding of the complexities, the nuance, the just fantastic nature of the cultures across this incredible community of people. And to come back into this role and be able to play a small part in what is happening in India has been one of the most important, proud, happy parts of my 40-odd-year academic career. And I'm just so grateful that I've been able to be part of a university that is able to do that. I could never have imagined back when I left India in 1986 what 40-odd years later I would be doing here. It's just quite an extraordinary time. The change in India over that time has been just as extraordinary. And again, for us to be part of the last 5 years of transition in India, the pace of change, the impact of NEP, the impact of many of the policies that are happening at the moment. Again, for us across Deakin, it's an honour and a privilege to have been part of that journey, albeit to a very small extent. So I'm going to raise my glass and I'm going to ask for 2 toasts. The first is to Deakin University, to Deakin. The second is to India and your prosperous, engaged, and incredibly important future. We are so proud to be but a very, very, very small part in that journey. Here's to India. Cheers, everybody, and thank you. So I think what I need to do now is to unveil our 30-year logo. So we have Catherine, Sarah. I know, we have to.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor, for your talk that you always give from your heart, and it does make us closer to the Australia relationship. Um, we do have a surprise guest. I was hoping that she would make it, and here she is. And thank you for coming, Sarah. I'm going to now ask Catherine Gallagher, who's Minister Commercial, Head of Austrade, to make her comments.
Well, thank you and congratulations to Ravneet and Professor Martin and all of those who are involved in Deakin's 30 years of impact in India. And we've just heard quite a few people on that journey. On behalf of Austrade, it's an honour to be part of today's celebrations and occasion. But I wanted to start with just looking at 30 years. 30 years is a fantastic first inning. And it says so much about Deakin's commitment to India and the level of trust Deakin has built with its partners and its students. And now, just for a moment, let's reflect on what 1994 looked like. This includes the fabulous musical romantic drama featuring Salman Khan and Madhuri Dixit, which was, now let me see if I can get this right, Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, which means who am I to you in English, and it was released that year. Mohammad Azharuddin captained the Indian cricket squad with Sachin Tendulkar as vice captain and Kapil Dev in the fold. So a pretty good lineup that year. And it would still be a year before the first mobile phone service started on a non-commercial basis. So we're setting the scene here. In education in 1994, both India and Australia were undertaking changes to expand access to different levels of education. India made several efforts to implement and refine strategies of, guess what? The National Education Policy. And there were early efforts to integrate technology into the learning process too. At the Australia end, IDP also launched in response to the growing recognition of the value of international education for multicultural society and a growing recognition in India, no doubt, with the relationship with Deakin, of the value of an Australian educational experience and the qualifications. 1994 was a different world, but one thing hasn't changed. Deakin was at the very forefront of innovation education then and relationship with India, and it continues to be so today. So now let's look at today. The Indian government is assertively progressing policy and strategy for significant expansion, inclusion, and equality in the Indian education system through, guess what? The National Policy 2020. So we have moved on a little bit. There's a sharp focus on international education and skill development to enhance employability, and reform of higher education is thundering ahead. The e-learning sector has experienced significant growth driven by increased internet penetration, the rise of smartphones, and the growing demand for online education. And of course, as Professor Martin mentioned, certainly COVID had one strength and outcome in that space. Importantly, and again, this has been spoken about, last year, the University Grants Commission announced approval for foreign universities to set up campuses across India. This was seen as a major move to encourage greater internationalisation and improve the overall quality of access of education. And hence, we've seen the success of Deakin University gaining approval for special establishment in Gujarat's GIFT City, endowing on Deakin the accolade, as we've already heard and will keep using, first ever international university of India. But we shouldn't be surprised that Deakin is again at the very cutting edge of education innovation and its relationship with India. The university stands as one of Australia's foremost institutions, and I'm going to beat, let's say Ian on this one, Professor Martin. It's ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide by the Academic Ranking of World Universities, which assesses more than 2,500 and ranks them based on contribution to global knowledge. So there you go. It's a top 1% for that one. Deakin's long-term commitment to India has also had a significant positive impact on the reputation of the broader Australian education system here in India and globally. You have again contributed and helped those other Australian universities and institutions to be here. But now let's move to India's demographic dividend. I think all of us in this room would be aware of the opportunity inherent in India's large youthful population. We often quote the figure of 1 million people turning 18 years of age every month, which is phenomenal. But access to world quality education and training are critical to this opportunity to bear fruit. And again, we see Deakin proactively engaging at this point of critical importance to India's future. Deakin has invested 50 million Australian dollars in India, contributing to scholarships, research, and community projects, including skills development. This commitment of the With India, For India initiative is now deepening with the establishment of the foreign campus with its India. And once again, Deakin will be a trailblazer, forging the path for others to follow. So, what will we expect 30 years from now when Deakin is celebrating its second innings and 60 years in India? Well, who knows where technology will take us. But one thing I'm certain of, Deakin will be at the forefront of impact, innovation, and relationships. It will be a leading icon of Australian education quality and a committed and trusting partner for India's future. So back to now. There has never been a better time in the Australian relationship. Education is a central pillar, and we cannot deny Deakin's contribution and legacy to this position. Thank you, Deakin, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And I can assure you, you will be a trailblazer as we go into the next 30 years of engagement in this wonderful country. Um, I'm going to, before I ask Professor Raghunathan to talk, I'm going to ask Sarah since she's here to say a few words. And ladies and gentlemen, Sarah is finishing her time in India. I do want to thank her for all the amazing support that she and her team have provided to Deakin University over the years in this part of the world. It has been such a pleasure working with you, Sarah. We'd like you to say a few words.
Thanks, Ravneet. It's very kind of you to ask me to say something because I think Deakin has also been part of my India journey. Many of you will know I had a first posting in India between 2008 and 2011, and at the time my husband was running the Australia India Strategic Research Fund for Australia, and I remember how often he would say to me, "She's a powerhouse. She's really going to take Deakin the extraordinary here in India." And I have to say that there's never been any change from that assessment. Uh, so I think we should also be honouring Ravneet as well because he has been so critical to Deakin's success here. I think the other thing that has always struck me about Deakin is how flexible and innovative they are, and Catherine touched on that in her speech. But it's always Deakin who's at the forefront, thinking of new models, taking advantage of the opportunities. And that has been richly rewarded with the very strong reputation they enjoy here. Of course, no better branding opportunity to have jumped on than to be the first of any country to open a campus here, and we just really celebrate that success. But I know it's duplicated across India. In all the parts of India I have worked in, there is a Deakin presence doing phenomenal things. So we're celebrating 30 years of Deakin in India, with India and for India. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but for me, it's been a constant and a pleasure of my own India journey to have worked with Deakin throughout. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for those wonderful words. I'm going to now invite Professor Raghunathan to say a few words. As the Vice Chancellor mentioned today, we had a wonderful discussion and we also launched the academy yesterday and today morning. And we are really excited about our partnership with IIT Madras. And I do want to thank you, Professor, for your personal support to Deakin University, your vision and working with Professor Bhaskaran and Professor Nick in taking this this vision that we have to create a wonderful collaboration between India and Australia to Deakin and IIT Madras.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. 30 years with India. And you have friends and your friends who stay with you for long. And Catherine talked about India of today and love for the country, love for India to do some things. And I think all of us in this room will agree that it is much easier to love India today than 30 years ago. So that you fell in love with India 30 years ago with its warts and all the problems then is great. And I think this is really well deserved for being a pioneer in this. I don't think there are so many universities which came here 30 years before to say, I'm going to be in this place, it's going to change, and I'll be part of the change. So that takes vision, that takes courage. And now IIT is going abroad. I know it also takes a lot of work. So congratulations on that. I just wanted to say from an IIT Madras perspective, how many things that done with Deakin over the years. The first MOU between IIT Madras and Deakin was signed in 2010 and renewed 2 times. We have a joint doctoral program with Deakin, which is working really well. We have joint mobility grants that we have instituted which are working well. We are the two universities which are the first universities to get onto AIC, thanks to Sarah for really pushing it. And IIT Madras and Deakin have been first universities to be onboarded onto this. And in our historic IIT Madras Zanzibar campus, the first MOU for student exchange was also signed with Deakin University. So that's another amazing thing. I will talk about just a couple more things and then stop. This IIT Madras Research Academy, I think it's pushed tremendously. And I still remember just a few months back, we were discussing how to do this, whether this will happen and so on. But it's happened today. And we're going to have a first cohort of 30 students in the fall. It's really amazing. And we have lots of plans going forward. Onboarding industries, join master's program. And really thinking about a new model of education where we would democratize education between students and universities. So all of those are yet to come, and you'll keep hearing about those. Finally, I also realized why IIT Madras and Deakin can work very well. The timelines that Ian mentioned. As you know, IIT Madras is the first IIT to have a campus outside the country. We have started a campus in Zanzibar in East Africa. And I just want to give you the timeline for those. The first talk of IIT Madras Zanzibar campus started November last year. And the first visit we made to Zanzibar, the first time I saw Zanzibar was in February 2020. So that was 3 months after we got wind of campus in Zanzibar. I went a couple of times and tremendous amount of paperwork. And we signed an agreement, believe it or not, start an IIT in Zanzibar, I think July 14 of 2023. That was an agreement between the Zanzibar government, Ministry of Education, India, and IIT Madras. And we had no campus then. And our first cohort of students started in October 2023. 3 months from the time of some buildings which had to be renovated to advertising the program to getting students and starting a cohort. So flat 11 months from hearing about Zanzibar to going for an inauguration where the president of Zanzibar opened the university. The reason that I'm saying that is, very similar timeline. So we all work at the same speed. That's the frequency match between IIT Madras and Deakin University, I guess. And having been intimately involved, signing to really helping set up the campus in Zanzibar, I know how difficult it is. And I also know how enriching it is. And it's just fantastic that Deakin is the first ever international university to have a presence in India. So we have something in common. We probably are the first ever international country to have a presence in Zanzibar, and have done that in India. So I really wish you all the best. I hope this GIFT City campus is really incredibly successful, and your journey in India goes from strength to strength. And that I can hope, but I can say for sure that your journey with IIT Madras will be fantastic going forward. Thank you for inviting me, and let's all celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those wonderful words. I'm going to take the liberty to call the Deakin South Asia team onto the stage. Can I just have the Deakin South Asia team onto the stage, please? No. No, you can just stand. Sorry. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, um, I do want to say that this team and a whole lot of the other people back in the Delhi office work very, very hard to make what you see happen. And yes, while I have been with Deacon for 30 years, I have put in a lot of hard work. But without this ACE team, nothing would have worked. I can assure you that. Whether it is 4 a.m. or 12 at night, or it is, sort of no weekends, 24/7, not ever have I heard from my team, we can't do this. Not ever in these 30 years. And I think this is a testament of passion, commitment, dedication, and a lot of love for what we all do. So thank you for supporting us, and thank you for supporting Deakin University in India. It's such a pleasure to work with you. Thank you to you. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately or fortunately, the Vice Chancellor and I will have to leave. We have a plane to catch. And the reason is that we have been invited to meet with the Prime Minister of India tomorrow morning, and we definitely don't want to miss this flight. So we're going to take your leave, but we have our colleagues here, and please do enjoy the evening. Thank you again very much.
Thank you very much, Ravneet, and safe travels to you and Professor Martin. So, folks, my name is Nico Bellis. I'm the Executive Dean of our Faculty of Science, Engineering, and Built Environment at Deakin. And we only have one more little discussion evening before we get into the cake. And I think it's going to take a little while to cut slices of that very large cake. So in the time being, we're really, really fortunate to have 5 guests with us today. I will announce, and then you can make your way up onto these lovely chairs up on stage. But we're going to have a bit of an interactive session for about 10 or 15 minutes where we ask some questions of Ms. Michelle Wade, who's a Commissioner South Asia Global Victoria. So feel free to come up on the stage, Michelle. We also have Professor Sekar Viswanathan, who's the Vice President of Vellore Institute of Technology. Thank you for joining us. We have Dr. B. Mohan, who's Chairman of the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. Professor Baz Bhaskaran, who's our Pro-Vice Chancellor, International Research Partnerships from Deakin University. And finally, we have Mr. Venkatesh Krishna, who's an alumni of Deakin University. So folks, feel free to take a seat, and I will really relish this opportunity to ask each of you a question. And in the theme of tonight's celebration of 30 years, we can share some of our insights there. So I'm going to start off with you, Michelle, if that's okay. The relationship between India, Australia, and in your case, specifically Victoria, has probably never been stronger. So in your engagement with India over the past decade, what are your thoughts? Where do you see Australia-India relationships going in the next 5 years for education and research?
Great, thanks, Nick. And firstly, it's a great pleasure to be here, and congratulations to Deakin and to all of you who are involved with this wonderful institution. The words that are really reflecting tonight that I'm hearing is about trailblazing, and I think every one of you who's involved should take that as part of the reputation, whether you're an alumnus or whether you're part of the team. It's a real, I think, identity to carry. And I think some of the comments that Sarah made, I've also learned so much from being alongside Deakin in their journey over the 6 years that I've been in here. In many ways, in what I'm going to talk about, what we've seen and what I think is going to happen, I don't think there's a lot of surprises for Deakin. We actually hold the university as a great model just for education, but also for business. So I'm expecting what I'm really doing is hopefully reinforcing what Deacon's been doing and also probably predicting what we want to do more of. So in the sort of what we've seen over time is certainly a change to traditional students, and in that position, the students going from India into Australia. We think that they're more selective with the sorts of coursework that they want to do. They're not just now, they're really looking into the reputation within the faculties and being quite selective. And they're also being more demanding of their institutions. And I say that with a very positive spin to it. I think students deserve to be demanding. They're asking for things like workplace placements, they're asking for additional skills, and they're asking for post support for employment. And that's something that from Victorian government, with work that we do in Study Melbourne, we're to partner with Deakin, with all of the Victorian universities to really help that. And I think there was recently actually a financial review survey of reputation in Australia. There's aspects of that which Deakin performed particularly strongly on. So that's changes to the traditional student body. I think we're also going to see, or we already have seen, changes to the way universities do. So Deakin's a trailblazer in this. We've obviously talked about the first international campus. You're going to see more of those. We've also had, I think, University of Wollongong's announced theirs. So it'll be interesting, I think, over the next 5 years to hear what other universities from other jurisdictions start to do. We're seeing industry-led PhDs, and that's something that Deakin's really led the way in as well. It was something that came up. I've been at the Global Investors Meet in a really good talk yesterday about what the future of young people in the workforce, and that we need as many PhDs from India to be more engaged with their study throughout their careers. So I commend Deakin on that also. The work that Deakin's done in my master's and grad, I was so pleased to attend graduation in Bangalore a few months ago. You always wonder with online coursework how genuine the experience is. So that's the great thing when we get to go to these things. We hear that the students have really enjoyed it. And then the work in workplace skills and work credentials, I think, is all areas that we've seen changing. So in 5 years, my predictions, wrapping it up quickly, there'll be more integrated learning with corporations, with the workplace. So I'm predicting a lot more co-designed 3rd and 4th year programs, and almost like apprenticeship, where you then linked to an organisation post-work. There'll be more industry collaborations in research. It was great to talk to Professor Martin yesterday about how well Deakin's going in that area. We're going to see more international students in India. And I think that's something that we've really got to consider up here. What do we want that experience to be like for the short-term exchange students, those who might be coming from Australia for just a semester or two, and also the full fee-paying students who are coming into India from other locations. And then the part which I really love and really enjoy working on is what we call the alumni dividend. And that, when we've got 30 years of strength in the market, is really exciting to me. It's that your alumni are going to be your future employers. They're going to be future investors in research. They're going to be your lifelong learners who are doing micro-credentials throughout their careers. And they're going to be your next generation of students. So I commend the advancement for being here. I look forward to seeing the work that they'll be doing in that area as well.
Excellent, Michelle. Thank you so much. And those themes you touched on were just remarkable. The co-design, students as key stakeholders, and effectively making things a lot more human. Thank you so much. I'm now going to move on to Professor Viswanathan and ask you a question as well. If your role as the Vice President of the university, I'm going to be a bit technical and refer to a thing called the new education policy. So with the new educational policy that's recently come out, it's got several good features that work well for both higher education and research, promoting the quality of education throughout a country like India, which is fabulous. Now, my question is, what actions on the Indian side do you think Australia could take to maximise the impact of the new education policy reforms?
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. congrats to Deakin for 3 decades in India and the first campus. NEP has been a game changer at the NEP 2020, and there are many facets I'm not touching. The major advantage of NEP to the students is the flexibility it offers to the students, whether it's multiple entry, multiple exit, changing from one institution to another, which was unheard of earlier in India. So when it comes to internationalization, there have been many aspects. One of the key aspects is allowing foreign universities to set up campuses in India, internationalization of education. So that has been implemented, and here we see a standing example, and I'm sure many more are to try. The other piece is about the twinning programs, the dual degree programs, the joint degree programs. BIT has have been having a great relationship with Deakin even prior to DP, thanks to ambassadors like Bas here. We have had many such programs, but now that UGC has formally announced such policies, because there was some gray area earlier, but now that the policies have been made clear due to NEP, the Australian universities have a great opportunity to tie up with many of the Indian institutions following these guidelines, especially in these 3 areas, the training programs, dual degree programs, and joint degree programs, and especially in the area of PhD, which Deakin and VIT have already started. So internationalization has been an important component of NP, and a lot countries like Australia can take advantage of. I'll stop right here.
Excellent. Well, look, those were really, really excellent points. And in reciprocity, I do congratulate India and universities on taking a look of broadening internationalization. The beneficiaries are not just going to be students in India, but of course the impact that Indian education will have on the world at large. So thank you for those very sage insights. All right, I'm now going to move on and ask a question of Dr. Mohan. Dr. Mohan is a really the impact across 2 nations, because in addition to your work here, you're also an honorary professor with Deakin's Faculty of Health. And in that role, your work with the Deakin MDRF partnership, which is the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, is closing in on a decade of doing critical work with importance for both Australia and India in the critical areas of diabetes and obesity. Diabetes is a prolific impediment on so many people across the world. That's such an important area. Now, my question for you, working across the divide or across the Indian Ocean for 10 years, is what do you think has powered this collaboration to grow from strength to strength in this past decade?
Thank you, Nick. Let me also start by congratulating Deakin. 30 years, it's very easy to start something, but to keep going for 30 years and then start the second innings, as Catherine mentioned, it needs great vision and leadership. That's exactly what Deakin has shown. We were very surprised 10 years ago when we didn't go to Deakin. Deakin came to us. We had Professor David Miller, who said, "Can we come and meet you?" And I said, what do you want? And he said, "We just want to come and collaborate with you." And then he made this offer of a very unique kind of PhD partnership, where with many other universities, the problem is the fees. I mean, people can't afford it. And it's in dollars and pounds and so on. Just can't afford it. Through this very magnanimous scholarships which Deakin offers, our students can do PhD and get a degree from Deakin University without spending anything from their pocket. This kind of a model has never been collaborated with more than a dozen universities, some of the top ones, including Harvard and many others. And yet, this kind of a relationship, this kind of a partnership, I said this before in Delhi earlier, we have never had. So I think with among all our partners, among all the universities at various continents that we have, we would rate Deakin number 1. I'm not saying this because it was the Deakin show. I've said this earlier in public as well. It's a very unique partnership. And when we tell people in the UK and Canada and US, they say, "Oh oh my God, how did they do that? So this is a very unique. So this is 8 students of completing their PhD in the narrow field of diabetes. 3 are completed, 2 are completing now, and to get their degree, and 3 are now ongoing. And this is just a start. Imagine 8 people have worked in 8 different fields, and we're able to find supervisors in who are keen to take up these projects. Now, from 2 things you mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, one is research, the other is education. And I'm very happy that we have done both. So from MDRF, which is the research, we then moved on to our education academy and started India's first diabetes nurse educator program. There was no such program in this country. Obviously, with 101 million people with diabetes, we don't have nurse educators. I mean, what a big gap that was. So we started this course, and 4 batches have already completed. 75 nurses have already been trained and become diabetes nurse educators. A unique model. I don't think that has been repeated yet in this country. So I think as far as looking forward, we see many more such opportunities. So we've done it in research, done it in education. There are many more things that we can do. Data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence, with some of your other faculty in which you have great strengths. And in this room itself, I find many areas of collaboration. Incidentally, we also collaborate with IIT Madras, and therefore that could be another area. So I think the world, the sky is a limit, and I look forward to the next 30 years of working with you and Deakin and MDRF and taking this to the next and the next. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for accepting us as your partner.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mohan. Thank you for sharing that particular story. One of the things, I guess, that you touched on there that's really important is not just what we're doing, but the real impact of it. So being able to train nurses is something that's affecting such a profound proportion of the population in India and globally is the real impact we're looking for. So thank you. Guys, congratulations on a good meetings for a decade that's still going. Baz, I have some questions for you too. So you're in the hot seat right now. A difficult one because I think you can handle it. But given that so much is happening in terms of strategic partnerships between both countries in critical areas that energy, emerging technologies, advanced manufacturing, the list does go on. What kind of opportunities will help redefine the future of research partnerships between Australia and India?
Thank you, Nick. Before you answer the question, I would like to congratulate the India South Asia team. I've been involved with them for more than 50 years now, and I've seen ups and downs and growth as well. And their contribution is enormous, and without their support, we won't be here, as Ian mentioned earlier. Thinking about your question, I think we have developed quite a lot of partnership. One, provide an example. I think if you're looking at the future, we have to move from discipline to discipline partnership, to research partnership, to look at much broader consortium model, including industry as a partner. One of the examples we've been working with IIT Madras on the energy consortium, where we learned quite a lot is our individual contribution is much smaller compared to what we bring up as a consortium. As part of that, we have been working with our partners in India in 6 areas. One is energy, the other one is the advanced manufacturing, the other one is technology, healthcare, agriculture and the environment, critical technology, and also looking at future infrastructure. We have an opportunity to bring the capability across our partners into a consortium model with the industry, try to work with the industry to address long-term challenges. And the impact on solving some of the societal issues is important as well. So that's the next step we are looking at. Yes, we have a PhD program, we have a joint program. On the research side, that's one aspect. The other one on the education side, we have training programs and so forth as well. My dream is to see Australian students come and spend a year or two in our partner institute and to immerse in the culture, learn from India. And that contribution is enormous value as well. I'm saying I'm originally from Sri Lanka, studied in Bangkok, ended up in Australia. The exposure and the connectivity, the network developed over a period of time. Our students in Australia doesn't have. We want to be a global citizen. That's where the future.
Baz, thank you so much. You touched on really important aspects of mobility, but it was really, I guess, enlightening to hear your emphasis. You mentioned it a few times, industry partnership. So I guess it's somewhat of a prerequisite that it's, in essence, mandatory. So from what I'm picking up statements, there is certainly the first 30 years, a lot to celebrate in education and research. The next 30 will really be about impact and translating, and industry is a critical part of that. All right, before we start dabbling in cake, we're lucky to have a Deakin alumni here, Venkatesh, and I'm going to just ask you one question. As a brand ambassador for Deakin, and amidst the backdrop now where Deakin is celebrating 30 years in India, with India, for India, according to you, being part of the sort of young, cool crowd, of course, what do you think should be some of the initiatives that Deakin should be looking at in India moving forward?
Thank you, good evening to all of you, the proud alumni who traveled 27 years with Deakin, alumni in India. So, sort of most of the kids will be, either my sons or cats. That's what they'll be. So what I found from Deakin is that it's been a tremendous university. Apart from education, the education approach was extremely friendly, so family oriented. I vouch it because I have my daughter studying. My daughter went to just to encourage my daughter to choose right university. Went to all the universities in Australia. With my daughter. She was so happy only to settle with Deakin. She said, I will only join Deakin, in spite of having offers from other universities, including G8 or all that. So that is the a special point where Deakin treats you as part of the family. See, just to give one more idea, that I started my educational journey only when I was 30. Then I was not even interested in studies. Whereas I landed up just for change. I want to take a shift from the regular routine, corporate world, and got I want to take a total change. Our person decided Australia is tag its word and let me see what is going on there. And then it turned out to be such an adventure for Deakin because you wouldn't believe the international manager who was there who welcomed me and helped me to sit in Australia 27 years back. Still my friend today, and we just communicated today, even now. That's the beauty of Deakin, and no other university can match that one. Apart from technology, advancement studies, there's something extra that you need to reach the student. Student feels that. For example, my daughter, she says she's no longer going to stay away from the university. She was staying at the house. Now I'm so like she's involved with the university. She moved to the campus. She took the hostel in the campus itself. That's the beauty of Deakin. I had such a tremendous experience. Here I am after 27 years. Still I'm. Your question is that what is the Deakin should do? She is already doing very well, we all know. You already crossed 30 years and you've done very well. No doubt about it. And one of the things what you can, of course, approach because today's modern kids is much more demanding. So they go into various sorts of research mode and come out with various sorts of solutions. So we need to try to understand that that's a tricky part because it's no longer what somebody was saying in 95, 96 when I went to Australia. Mobile phone was crazy, and I had to call my parents. Now I have to take some $10 card or something like that to give you 10 minutes of speech. Today is just the opposite. It's just the opposite. Today, of course, you have your WhatsApp, but for example, many even companies like your something. No, not this. It's complete. It gives free access to top India, irrespective. No at all. So that's the way it's changed. So you have to tackle these sort of students who are so inquisitive, so much of information. So unfortunately, in spite of being 30 years, continue to trust themselves, push themselves up to a challenge. That's what it is. There's no, unfortunately, because you are already competitive. That is coming on the top is one thing, staying there and delivering is another thing. So that's where the real challenge for Deakin now. You made a big impression wherever we go, we are Deakin. Yes, we need to have a challenge of staying there. How we can approach, like, for example, my daughter was crystal clear. She will only do psychology and she will only study these subjects. That's where Deakin trumped over even many. So that's the level of students we are having. So you have to push yourself. That's what I would say, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for speaking from the heart. And I think what you've just described there is what we often call the Deakin difference, which is hard to quantify, but it's the sort of difference about picking someone up at an airport or the human connection. And a lot of us that have been
It
associated.
did happen to me when I was up in Australia. So
Yeah.
I do not know what will happen. Then I saw blood waiting there. Oh my God, somebody is there to save me. Thank you for that.
And you're welcome. So, with that round of applause, let's keep the round of applause going for all of our panel. And thank you for sharing those stories and insights from your background and experience. So, you are now to resume your seat. But before we tuck into that cake, I promise you we only have a very, very, very short amount of time to go. We only have closing remarks left. So, for the closing remarks, I'm going to introduce Jimmy Buck, who's our Director of Advancement at Deakin University, to say a few words before we kick off our networking nibbles and drinks. Jimmy.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. I get to step in now because of the flight that Ravneet and the Vice Chancellor had to catch. And it's such a privilege to be with all of you and to reflect on Deakin marking this milestone. But I think Venkatesh really touched on something very important there. He talked about the Deakin family. And I think the journey that Ravneet was talking about earlier really demonstrates that. We've all been on this journey together. Some of us from the very beginning, others like me who has only been involved in the university for the last 5 years. You instantly get this pull. You have this connection to the organization, like family. And as we think about the next 30 years, I hope that all of you will continue on this journey with us and that it's more enjoyable and exceptional as these first 30 years have been. I don't want to keep you from cake and networking, so thank you for being here with us this evening. Thank you for being with us over the last 30 years. And thank you for being with us as we move into the second innings. Take care.